Cavs are in an interesting spot, right? They're one of the most impressive teams in the NBA, bar none, right? You look at what they've done, their record, where they stand right now in the East. They are very impressive. The Cavs are the 2 seed. They've overtaken the Milwaukee Bucks by 2 games. They've overtaken the New York Knicks by 3 games. And right now, they're currently 6 games back of the Boston Celtics, who almost have 50 wins. The Cavs are very impressive. They are on pace to be better than they were last year. They were 1 team last year. They might get to 55, 58 wins this year. They are impressive. What else is also impressive about what the Cavs have done this year is that it's not just all at home like last year. Last year, the Cavs were a great home team, but a pretty suspect road team, right? This year, they're a pretty good home and road team. Let's look at their road numbers last year. Yeah. See, at home, the Cavs were 31-10. Awesome. On the road, they were 20-21. Not awesome. Not awesome at all. And then if we go to this year, they are 19-9 at home and 17-8 on the road. They're just as good at home as they are on the road. This is an impressive team, especially when you see like Milwaukee is under 500 on the road. The New York Knicks are under 500 on the road. The Pacers, who are the 6th seed, are under 500 on the road. The Cavs are one of 3 teams in the top 6 of the East. It's over 500 on the road, and not just over 500, a really good record, like 10 games over 500. So the Cavs are the 2 seed. They haven't been 2 seeds since LeBron was here. They're playing some of the best basketball that they've ever played. But nobody is talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's the big elephant in the room. Nobody is speaking about us. And on some levels, it makes sense. On other levels, it doesn't, right? I get it. The Cavs got eliminated in the playoffs last year in the first round. It was not when everybody expected the Cavs to get eliminated on the playoffs. So a lot of people are very skeptical about what the Cavs are doing. They look at this year as the same thing as last year, even though I don't know if that's 100% fair, right? Yes, did the Cavs definitely disappoint in the playoffs? Absolutely. It's 100% true. But it's not like the Cavs have routinely disappointed in the playoffs. And it's not like disappointing in the playoffs has stopped teams from being talked about. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles and Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid. They've been nothing but constant playoff disappointments. Every single year, a playoff meltdown, worse than the last, more embarrassing than the last, or bad luck. Maybe it's because Ben Simmons doesn't want to play basketball that year. You lose to the Atlanta Hawks, or maybe it's because Joel Embiid stops hooping, or maybe it's because James Harden and Joel Embiid stop hooping, or maybe it's because you hire Doc Rivers and Doc Rivers does that Doc Rivers thing. But the fact is that people still talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and take them very seriously as basketball contenders, despite the fact that they have disappointed, much like the Cavaliers, a lot of times. Now, you can say, hey, it's not the first round, Quincy, but it's been like 6 years. The Cavs had one bad round of basketball, unfortunately, in the first, and people talk about them as if they can't achieve anything outside of that just because of that. Now, are the Cavs going to make it to the NBA Finals this year? I highly doubt it, right? But would I be surprised if the Cavs were in the Eastern Conference Finals this year? No. Wouldn't be surprised. And what's even more shocking to me, this lack of enthusiasm, this lack of conversation about the Cavaliers, is that it's not just the national media, right? It's easy to point at the national media and say ESPN is not talking about us, or Fox is not talking about us, or, CBS, whoever, not talking about us, and blaming the national media and the producers who put those show together and all that stuff. It's real easy. But let's be honest here. Cavs conversation, Cavs talk, the enthusiasm hasn't been the same, even in the local levels, right? Even from the city of Cleveland, the enthusiasm is not the same that it was last year. Now, there are reasons that might be the case. Donovan Mitchell is no longer new. He had a disappointing playoff. Like, the enthusiasm around Donovan Mitchell is much less, even though he's been playing great basketball. All of those things, like there's a lot of reasons why people would feel this, but it doesn't trump the fact that the Cavs are one of the best teams in the NBA. It doesn't trump the fact that the Cavs are the 2 seed and have a very good shot of holding on to that 2 seed in the last few months of the season. It doesn't trump any of that. So that's what I'm here to talk about. That's the narrative on the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what people think about them, locally and nationally. They don't take them seriously. We know why people don't take the Cavs seriously right now, right? Disappointing playoff exit. Got muscled out by the New York Knicks. Specifically by one player, Mitchell Robinson. Could not answer Jalen Brunson, despite the fact that you have 2 players on your team who should be able to answer Jalen Brunson and Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. My guy Don here says the Cavs also have the problem with LeBron's legacy. I don't know if this has much to do with LeBron's legacy, to be honest with you, because this isn't about this isn't about if LeBron's going to come back or are they going to bring Bron back. Like that's how it is to live in Bron's shadow. But this team has earned the right to not be in LeBron's shadow. And I don't think that that's what's happening with the team, because last year they had no problem getting enthusiasm in the city. They had no problem getting enthusiasm from the national media, right? People were excited, calling Donovan Mitchell an MVP candidate, talking about how the Cavs are the future. All of that stuff happened last year. So I don't think that's the case. I think this is a lot to do about the failure to compete against the New York Knicks in a compelling way in the playoffs that made people feel like the Cavs don't play real basketball, right? That the Cavs don't play a brand of basketball that's actually sustainable in the playoffs, which happens, right? We've seen this with the Atlanta Hawks when they won 60 games, and then we found out they don't play real basketball. They play good basketball during the year, but not real win the playoffs type basketball. And not every team does. But I think it's not true for the Cavaliers. So I don't think the problem is LeBron's legacy or LeBron's shadow that he has. Look, this isn't it. The issue is what happened against the Knicks. So that's where we're at with the Cavs. That's the narrative with the Cavs. If the Cavs want to change that narrative, which I think if you've watched them this year, you feel good about their ability to do it, they're going to have to make noise in the playoffs. They're going to have to not only get out the first round. I mean, that's a given. If you're a top 3 seed, you got to get out the first round. But they got to come close to upsetting a real contender or upset a real contender. And the Cavs are in a prime position, in my opinion, to do something about that. Because not only are they going to be, or are they on track right now to be a top 3 seed, right? It's between them and Milwaukee. The Cavs could reasonably separate themselves significantly from the New York Knicks. If you get the top 2 seeds, you might end up with Orlando, you might end up with Chicago, you might end up with Miami, you might end up with Atlanta. You should beat all of those teams. Obviously, Miami would be the one that concerns you the most, but honest to God, if you are a 2 seed, you should beat the 7 seed. I don't care who the 7 seed is. you should beat the 7 seed. I really don't like. Once you're the 2 seed, you really shouldn't be playing the game of who do we want to play in the first round. That's cool when you the 4 seed, 5 seed, 6 seed, but once you are a top 3 seed, you should not be worried about who you have to play in the first round in the NBA playoffs. You should be a better basketball team than them and able to beat them, in a 7-game series. So let's say you're the Cavs, you win the first round. The reason I think this could be interesting is because you could get that 3-6 matchup, and it could be either the Milwaukee Bucks, the Pacers, or the 76ers. Now, if I'm being honest with you, if I'm the Cavs, I want to play the 76ers. Why do I want to play the 76ers? Because they're routine second round frauds. Like, if you want an easy way to get to the conference championship way, play the 76ers in the second round. Something to happen. Something always happens with the 76ers. Something always happens with them. So that's something that the Cavs can watch for. But if we're talking about things that they need to achieve on the court for the rest of the season, the keys to the rest of the season. 1, they need to maintain the level of toughness that they have here. They need to maintain the level of toughness that they have here. Right? They have been a much tougher team this year, I believe. The Cavs have been much tougher this year than they were in last year's iteration with the team. It sounds silly, but this team fights more, right? There's more altercations. Jared Allen is not willing to be disrespected by the likes of Ben Simmons and let it happen, right? He's willing to stand on business. You have George Niang, who's always willing to bark with somebody. Like, you have an edge to this Cavs team. Last year's Cavs team did not have an edge. They were very nice gentlemen, as Darius Garland put it, but they had no edge. And I know it sounds silly if we're talking about a technical analysis of basketball to talk about who has an on-court edge. I get it, but it's real. That edge stuff matters because when you don't have an edge, when people are not afraid of crossing you, they tend to disrespect you. And when somebody is comfortable disrespecting you, they are far more prolific in things that they would never try. And I think you're right, Don. I think having Georges Niang and having Max Strus has brought an edge to this team. They aren't willing to tolerate disrespect. They aren't willing to silently turn the other cheek. They are willing to stand on it. And just having that energy there is important because you can't be the nice guy team. Nobody takes the nice guy team seriously. Now, that being said, you don't want to be assholes, right? You don't want to be like Draymond or like what team is that? The Memphis Grizzlies, like where everybody kind of hates you. You don't want to kick it like that. But you do want to make sure that at the end of the day, people have a reasonable expectation that if you get out of pocket, you're going to stand on business. You can't let people just get away with anything. The Cavs will let people just get away with anything last year. Like I said this during the playoffs last year. The fact that 5-game series went by and the Knicks were as disrespectful as they were to you and nobody fought is a damn disgrace. Like, somebody got to fight. I'm sorry. You can go ass beat Mitchell Robinson pushing Jared Allen all up and down the court. Somebody got to decide they want to fight. All summer, I was talking about how we need somebody like a Draymond or something. We need an edge. We need the element on this team because this team had no edge last year. When Donovan Mitchell was your most willing player to fight, you got no edge. And no disrespect to Donovan Mitchell, but Donovan Mitchell is not known for his dark side. Right? Like, that's just what it is. Every great team has an edge. You can look at the Golden State Warriors before they got KD. They had Mo Spades. Mo Spades got more edges than anybody, right? Play no mess. That was his reputation. Then they maintained Mo Spades. They had not David Lee, but he used to play for the Pacers, real enforcer. Somebody in the chat remind me who it is, but Golden State had him, Draymond Green. Like, they always had an edge to them. Yes, it was the Splash Brothers shooting threes and stuff, but Draymond was there. They had dudes off the bench that had the element. It was all there. Then you look at other championship teams. They all have it. Not the Memphis Grizzlies, the Milwaukee Bucks have Bobby Portis. Element. The element is there, right? Everybody, you need that edge to get through in the playoffs, because the playoffs are physical. You're playing the same team up to 7 times. And there's going to be times where you just need to set the tone. You need to let people know that there's going to be a level of disrespect that's not going to be tolerated. And the Cavs allowed the New York Knicks to disrespect them without consequence last year in the playoffs. And that's something that I think with Georges Niang, hell, even with Tristan Thompson, once he get back from PED suspension, and Max Strus, that I feel like we're not going to tolerate that level of disrespect again. Lance Stevenson. No, not Lance Stevenson. His name was David something. If I had 2 seconds to think about it, I'd be able to think about it and figure it out. But he used to play on the Pacers, ball dude, power forward, you know who. But anyways, chat aside, the Cavs do not have the element. This year, they have a bit more of that element in them. They're a little bit tougher just across the board, right? They have that with them. They probably need a little bit more element, like to get to the finals or whatever. But you know what? They got enough. They got enough, right? Tristan, and look, I know for a fact that the Cavs get their ass beat again in the 5-game series to the Knicks. Tristan gonna choke somebody, right? Like, Tristan gonna get in the fight, and that's kind of what the team needs. Let's keep it honest. The team needs somebody who's willing to be a little bit crazy, because Darius and Donovan are smaller guards. And when your team is dominated by smaller guards, you need to let people know that you're still about this physicality, and not let people get the impression that they can push you around. Because if they do, they'll disrespect you. They'll disrespect you to the end all. And the Cavs definitely had that happen to them last year. That being said, toughness isn't the only thing that the Cavs need to do. Donovan Mitchell. It's been great in the regular season. I feel like a lot of the hesitancy about Donovan Mitchell right now has nothing to do with the regular season. You know, Donovan Mitchell has by far had the 2 best years of his career in Cleveland. Yet people can't stop talking about when he'll leave Cleveland. I don't think he will. But he's had the 2 best years of his career in Cleveland. But his last few years in the playoffs have been a disappointment. His last year in Utah, disappointment. His last year in Cleveland, disappointment. He was invisible during both series. Couldn't find Donovan Mitchell. The one game the Cavs won was because Darius Garland had a good game. Donovan Mitchell has to be a factor. Look, we know Donovan's going to ball in the regular season. He might average 29. He might finish in the MVP voting. Donovan is a top-level player. He's not the top of the top, but he's damn close. Superstar. Really good player. But he has to show up this year in the playoffs. And that's what's on the line for the Cavs this year, right? Last year, you can write it off as a young team that had never been to the playoffs before, and they had to play at Madison Square Garden, and the moment was too big for them. And hell, it happens, man. Like, I know nobody likes it, but it does happen. Right? The moment was too big for them. The physicality was too much for the team. All of those things kind of conspired to happen at the same time and led to a horrible meltdown by this team. It happens. The Philadelphia 76ers took a while to become playoff contenders. Same thing with the Milwaukee Bucks. You can look at any team, the Celtics. Celtics are the one team that did not take a while. But a lot of teams, the Denver Nuggets, took a while to get to a point to where they can compete in playoffs at a high level every year. It's a hell of a thing to get used to. Okay, cool. But if you go into the playoffs and you disappoint again this year, people getting fired. JB would not be the first coach to win Coach of the Year and get fired. It's certainly a thing for him, right? Like if he gets to the playoffs and they get bounced in the first round again, he's probably getting fired. And that's probably the right decision because you should really get out the first round this year. And he wouldn't be the first guy to get fired, right? A lot of coaches, unfortunately, in the NBA have gotten fired after getting to the playoffs. So it's something that the Cavs are living with, the burden of expectations, the burden of living up to your record, the burden of living up to your playoffs seeding. But they have to. If Donovan Mitchell has another disappearing playoff series after having 2 in a row, all that playoff spider, playoff Donovan Mitchell stuff is dead, buried, gone, might as well never happen. We'll talk about it as if it never happened. Yeah, we know Donovan Mitchell had some good playoffs in his first couple years of his career, but if you have 3 turds and 2 of those turds are on your best years of your regular season, people are going to stop caring at massive levels. The Cavs are at a crossroads right now. They have to make the decision. Do they want to be known as a serious Eastern Conference team, or do they want to be an unserious Eastern Conference? What they do in the playoffs, what they do for the rest of the season will determine that. If they maintain the 2 seed, the 3 seed, a top 3 seed in the East, they maintain that, and they make a run in the playoffs. Maybe they get to the second round, push a team to 6 games. Hell, maybe even get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they do all of that, they will be a serious team going forward. We will talk about the Cavs seriously. Nobody will talk about if Donovan Mitchell's going to leave. They'll start talking about why Donovan Mitchell would be crazy to leave the city of Cleveland. We'll be talking about Darius Garland. We'll get the media attention that you all want. Cavs will be a serious team if that happens. If it doesn't, if you get bounced, or if you get out the first round, and then you play in a big second round matchup, and you get embarrassed again, if Donovan Mitchell no-shows for an entire series again, then you're going to be unserious. You're not going to get the attention you deserve. They're going to start talking about you like they talk about Cat, Karl Anthony Towns. They're going to start talking about you like they talk about him. Don't nobody want to be talked about like they talk about Cat. But that's how they'll talk about you, Donovan. You'll get out the second round this year. If you don't have a great performance at least in every round that you play in, if you have a no-call, no-show, so they're going to start talking about you. The Cavs want respect. They got to get it, right? And respect is not really earned in the regular season now, is it? It's the unfortunate truth. You get some respect about what you do in the regular season. You get to blast on the map, but you don't get that respect. Somebody said in the comments, the Bucks laid an egg bigger than the Cavs in last year's playoffs. They get a pass for recent success. The reason the Milwaukee Bucks get a pass is because they won a championship recently. 2021, they won it with Giannis. They'll get a break. And they traded for Dame Lillard. They made some big-time changes to that roster. So it doesn't necessarily feel like they're running the same thing back. So that's why the Milwaukee Bucks get a break. The Cavs are essentially running the same squad back with some upgraded role players. So they're not getting that same respect. But the Cavs are a very much different team. When I watch this team, I see a team that can shoot the ball. They got snipers. They got spot-up shooters. Last year, we were praying that Cedi Osman and Caris LeVert made threes when we got locked up in the interior. Those were our best three-point shooters. We were praying for Cedi and Caris. It was a pathetic three-point shooting operation that the Cavs had last year. I don't need to say that. Right? We were hoping that Dean Wade starts bringing it in. Now it don't matter that Dean Wade don't bring it in consistently. It just doesn't matter. Isaac Okoro missing corner threes, it doesn't matter as much because, one, he's not missing them that much. He shoots 38%. But also, this team overall shoots much better from three. Shout out to Sam Merrill. Shout out to Max Strus. Shout out to Georges Niang. They're all shooting better from three than what they had last year. Max Strus, pretty tough defender. You have him out there. Dean Wade, long guy, length. You can put him out there at the three. Have him defend. Don't have as much as those defensive issues. We've all seen what the ratings are with him on the court. He's a good player. Not a consistent three-point shooter, but he's a good player there somewhere. Now, would that work in the playoffs? I don't know. The only time they really played Dean Wade last year in the playoffs is when they put him at like center. That was a disaster. I think also another thing that helps the Cavs is just having pieces in their arsenal, right? The issues that I feel like people had with JB Bickerstaff was that they felt like he couldn't make adjustments. My argument against that argument was it that JB Bickerstaff was incapable of making adjustments, or was it that roster was not capable of making adjustments? Because people were mad at JB because the Cavs were getting bullied off the ball. But JB had nothing to counter that with. His backup center is Robin Lopez at the time, who can't be on the floor. He can't defend. He's just a liability. So even if you do slow down some of that bullying that Mitchell Robinson was doing, like, it ain't going to do much. And then it's not like Robin Lopez is known as being a bully blocker, right? This year, you have some options. You have Tristan Thompson. You could throw in Damian Jones. Like, you got some bigger bigs out there that you could throw at the situation. You got a big three in Georges Niang that you could throw out there. You got Sam Merrill, who can spot shoot. That can really alleviate some pressure. Max Strus is a nice size guard at 6'5". You have more size that you could throw at a problem. You have more solutions that you could throw at a problem. The issue last year with the Cavs is that they only had one or two answers for one or two problems. But if you gave them anything outside of that, they looked like a different team. This year's Cavs team looks a lot different. This year's Cavs team looks like they have more solutions for more problems. Jarrett Allen looks like he really spent all summer thinking about what happened in the playoffs and found a way to hopefully make sure that doesn't happen, right? The Cavs have gotten better. I think Darius Garland is going to get back to his old self as he gets to play more basketball after coming back from injury. Evan Mobley, look, as much as people complain and moan about Evan Mobley, he's looking really good recently. So there's all of that. But the flexibility in the Cavs roster, as my guy Don put it in the comments, in the live chat, is really the upgrade with this team. The ability to space the floor, the ability to shoot, the ability to maintain a level of defense. That's why this team is a great home team this year and a great road team as well, which they weren't last year. See, that's the test to me. Last year, they were a terrible road team and they were a terrible playoff team. This year, they're a great road team. They're a great home team. They have a better chance in the playoffs to show up. They're built well this year. But that's my thoughts. I want to thank Bleach Report for giving me the opportunity to do this stream. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.